Yeah, good jump. Okay, this is one of those situations where I want us to be in top mid a bit faster. Yep. Okay, we can talk about top mid for a second.
Okay.
Okay. Um, just like looking at this position of the map, what like kind of relevance do you think having control of this area has?
It definitely makes it hard for them to push just from their spawn like platform
Mm-hmm.
into mid.
So like just
Uh,
from kind of here, you mean?
yeah. Also, pretty important is from top mid you can paint both zones, which is
Mm-hmm.
pretty
Yes,
nice to be able to do.
for sure. And
And
that's
also, yeah,
go
and
ahead.
not as necessary, but like the vac was positioned on like the right side of the map, so you can also watch the try and poke a little bit. That's less relevant most of the time.
Mm,
Like
wait.
right isn't really the right word. It's like looking directly ahead, like in front of top mid, like where the vac was popped in the clip we just watched.
Okay, wait. Let's see that again. Oops. Can I get rid of that? So you mean like because they pop back like somewhere around here?
No, more so like from mid, you can also
Oh, okay.
pressure this position.
I
That's
see.
not always as relevant, but you can hit it. Well,
Okay.
with my
Yeah.
build, you can.
Okay. I see. That makes a lot more sense seeing where they pop back. I forgot.
Ah, right. Yeah, it's a bit hard to
Okay.
follow.
Yeah. Um, all of that is correct. And it kind of gets to the core of why this position is good. Um, and to some degree, it's just in the name, because in the name is mid, and the middle of the map means that you can, like, it's in the middle of all of this. And
Mm.
if you have control of, like, this right here, you can affect all of this. Just because, like, you have the range on your weapons, like, pretty much every weapon can affect all of this circle, just if you have top mid control. Technically, some weapons don't have the range to like paint this far area, but most do, and also you can throw bombs. And that's pretty much why this is so important. Because if you have control of this area, you can pretty much just decide where you're gonna take fights. Let me explain that a little bit. We we can just assume some like relatively normal loadout over the map. So like on the enemy team we have people. I'm gonna use a different color actually because I'm smart. We have like we have people here, maybe someone here, and then two people like kind of on the far right. And then on our team we have the same kind of distribution, that's just that we have two people on top mid. So like roughly this. Why do you think this is an advantageous position for us? Or yeah, like do you see any like advantages we might have here on the like purple team?
Yeah, we can. Well, the two people on top mid can paint both zones to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yes.
that's already quite nice. Also kind of depends on their weapon, but having high ground for Stabber, that they could just kind of poke ledges, but not every weapon can do that as easily. So you're kind of harder to hit to them than
Mm-hmm.
you can hit them. If that
Yep.
makes any sense.
Yes.
That definitely helps. Hitting over cover is also a bit easier with the block on their
Mm-hmm.
side.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Although,
Yeah.
yeah,
All true. Um, Against Stamper, it's a bit weird to be in these positions because they like if they're under the ledge, then they have like a pretty good position into you if you're on top
yeah,
mid. But that's not like the most relevant thing here. The most relevant thing is more so in regards to where we are positioned and where they are positioned. Because if we take a look at like the fights we can take from this position, this is a bit random, but we can just like take this as a basis and think of more general situations later on. These two players are relatively isolated right now. Maybe this player not so much, but this player definitely. Um, and they are isolated specifically because we have top mid. We can fire at them from this angle and fire at them from this angle, which are two very different angles at the same time. Because we have like people on top mid. And if we didn't have top mid, then this would just not happen. We'd have like way less angles to take on them. Pretty much only this. And like maybe we can assume we have like this part of under control, and then we have a few more angles, but like not much. And they can pretty much be safe in this position. If we don't have top mid control. Because they can assume that everything that's ever gonna bother them comes from this angle. And they can see that angle like really well. So ultimately, because you're on high ground, because it takes a bit of time for most weapons to approach you on high ground, and because you can drop off high ground very freely whenever you want, you can pretty much take fights wherever you want. In specific, this player right here can just decide, I can help with this fight right now. I can help if we somehow decide to fight here. But if my teammate on this side of the map wants to push, I can also help this fight. Technically, if everyone on the enemy team explodes right now, I can also push this guy. And that's really the core of what makes this position powerful and what makes like most mid positions in the game powerful. Like stacks, for example, would be the same on Mechamart. All these kinds of positions are powerful because if we have them, we can take advantageous fights pretty much wherever we want. And we can create advantageous fights just because we can pop into any fight we want. It's pretty much the ultimate like Slayer position, if you will. If there are fights going on in the rest of mid, like around here or like around here, being top mid is really nice for Slayers because your skirmisher is gonna be like skirmishing around like those other parts of the map, like around here, and you can just pop in anywhere and like help that fight from like top mid where people won't expect you to come from. Yeah, pretty long theory lesson on why this is good. If we can, real quick, this is like an example of where like the yellow team is probably positioning very aggressively. Usually to avoid this kind of thing, to avoid being like cornered, like these two players will play a bit more safely. But the same still kind of applies when people play more correctly. Like, first of all, at some point the enemy team is gonna have to push in like somewhere on the map, and then you can do the same principle of seeing where you can take 2v1s or otherwise like good fights. But like pretty much the idea of you can decide where fights are is almost always true if you have top mid control. We can see their duelies probably. Yeah, they probably got the pick on the pencil just because we didn't clear top mid, or we let's see. Yeah, because like they could take this angle without anyone like punishing them for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your weapon is relatively good in top mid, because it can like hit under these ledges. And that makes it nice because most weapons, that's kind of the counter you have to positions like this. Like a lot of weapons like swords, for example, or other buckets will just sit under this ledge and spam hitboxes over the ledge.
Yeah.
And that's difficult to deal with. So it's nice having like a bucket that can like at least somewhat contest it, or otherwise just have people spamming bombs into this area.
Yeah.
That's kind of how you try to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Or I mean, the obvious thing would just be stop people from approaching this ledge position right here.
Yeah.
By like having paint, having someone set up here. That'd be the optimal outcome, but you can't always have that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go back to actual concrete things. You can kind of see it here as well, how you can like, just going back to the top mid thing one more time, how we can, because we took top mid, we can pretty much decide that we can, like, we're gonna help Ollie in this fight right here.
Yeah.
And your, like, you being able to help this fight would have been slower from any other position on this map. You could have technically taken the off angle on like the far left, like behind the thing here, and then behind the wall right here, like through left zone. But that takes way longer and is to some degree also more punishable, just because it takes longer and you have to paint over more stuff and it's more visible, all that kind of stuff. You should like the video and subscribe if you want to see more content like this, because YouTube algorithm or something, I don't really know. Amazing outro.